Welcome to the Patriot Punkcast. I am your host, Chase Matheson. And boy, do we have a lot of stuff to cover. As most of you know, we had selections last week. Elections. And it was hit or miss, mostly miss, in my opinion. We learned a lot of important lessons, but we did have some small victories. We're going to cover the pros and the cons. And we're also going to talk about Daniel's favorite subject tonight, which is incentives. And I think that's probably what we're going to start off with is where we've gone wrong on incentivizing things. As for elections that we're going to cover, we have had issues reported everywhere from Shelby County, Benton County. There are things to watch going on in Putnam County. You have major issues in Sumner County, including something that has broken just today that we will be covering later on in the show. We also have some shenanigans that went down in Rutherford County and the response from one of the school board members in that race. And we have a special guest on tonight who's going to help us reminisce a little bit about history, where we can discover and kind of find out where we've gone wrong and find out where we can improve. And hopefully we can start working together a little bit as a community to come together and solve some of these problems that we're facing as a Republican voting base. That being said, before we get started, I do want to encourage everyone to go over to PatriotPunkNetwork.com. There you can support our station. You can look at different videos, news articles. We've got everything from satire to genuine investigations into law enforcement, election integrity. A lot of the stuff that we publish is things that needed to be published that was not published somewhere else. We've got stories that we will actually be covering tonight, which have become relevant all of a sudden, once again, after 2 years. And it's important that we recognize the pattern and practices. And part of what the Patriot Punk Network aims to do is to put some of these patterns out there so that you can be looking for them and you know how to approach them in your everyday lives and in campaign season, especially. You can also hop on over while you're there to the support tab. There, you can become a member for as little as $3 a month. Right now, we are working on sending out some exclusive content. We are postponing our school board forum as there's another one that's going to take place, but we will have tickets to that forum when it becomes available. And you'll probably get some bloopers from time to time, things like that. But most importantly, it allows you to support a voice that is not being heard right now in the state of Tennessee. And that is just how much corruption is running rampant. Special interests control our politics and make all of our laws. And it's really important that even if it's not me, that you support independent media so that those media outlets can grow, can start to cover different aspects and start to compete, especially with some of the liberals, because the old guard is failing. And if we as conservatives do not replace it, it will be taken over by leftists. One of the other things that you can do to support the Patriot Punk Network is to take a look at a shiny, brand new Kirby. Now, for those of you who do not know, I grew up in the Kirby business, and Daniel should be pulling up a video here as soon as he finds it. There we go. So, when was the last time that you shampooed your carpet? Now, I want you to imagine that we took a white towel and laid it in the doorway or in the foot of your bed, somewhere where you walk a whole lot. How long for you and your family would it be before you had to pick that towel up and throw it in the washing machine? Well, it would probably only be a couple of weeks. What would that towel look like after 2 or 3 months? Now, I want you to think, what's the difference between that towel and your carpet? Honestly, the only difference is the ease of cleaning. And since Kirby has been made in America for 110 years, they have figured out exactly what it takes to clean your carpet, how to make it easy. And the best part is you can do just a traffic area or you can do the whole room. No need to wait for a sunny day where you take all the furniture outside, no soaking wet carpets afterward. Just basically point and shoot. If you'd like to take a look at a Kirby, we believe that you deserve to see one in your home before you decide to make the purchase. So email us at Kirby, Kirby, at PatriotPunkNetwork.com. You can also go to PatriotPunkNetwork.com/Kirby. Joining us to talk about all of this election process, the misplaced incentives, and so much more is my good friend and co-host, Daniel Wagner.
What's going on, amigo?
Not a whole lot. I'm glad to see you put a shirt on. I
Long
didn't
time
tell.
no see. Boy, it's been hotter than well, hot outside. Hot outside for sure. And moist.
Yes, yes. So I'm really excited. We've got someone that I've spoken with several times in the past. Never been able to get him on the show. I think the last time we spoke, it was actually before we'd even started the Patriot podcast. Uh, let's go ahead and bring him on, and let's welcome Sean Raesemann to the Patriot Punkcast. How are you, Sean?
I'm doing good, well, gentlemen. Thank you for inviting me, and I hope I meet your expectations.
Well, I think it's important after speaking to you over the phone and kind of hearing about what you went through and your perspective. I think it's you can provide some valuable insight to the people who are watching tonight. Maybe they're struggling with their own turmoil in their local party, and I think it's really important. In like 30 seconds or less, just tell people who you are and kind of what you do and what brought you here.
Sure. So we retired from the Air Force in 2020, and as I knew I was retiring, my wife moved up here to Brentwood in 2019. I joined her in June of 2020, and we have two young teenage girls. I call them young because I still see them as little misses, but one's a senior in high school, one's entering her freshman year of high school. And when we retired and came to Williamson County, I threw money at the Republican Party, attempted to, um, I guess, work my skills into advancing a conservative agenda.
How did that turn out for you?
Um, it was interesting. So, I guess to set some context, I arrived here just about the time Tennessee was implementing some COVID mandates. So we landed in Brentwood, and the house we bought, we never intended to make it a place for or classrooms for our two children, or a work from home space for my wife, and then me. I planned to just hang out and play golf after serving in the Air Force for about 30 years. And so it was an interesting time. I did, after 30 years of being in uniform, when we're in the uniform, we're supposed to be apolitical, because it doesn't matter what party your commander in chief associates or represents. You do what they tell you to do. And so after that, though, I'd always held views that a limited government was good, low tax was good. I appreciated the values of a traditional family, all those things that we associate with the Republican Party. And so like I said, I donated a substantial amount of money, I think, to the Republican Party, and heard nothing from them. But then I attributed a little bit of that to COVID, a little bit of that to the organization. And soon after, I did get a call from Cheryl Brown, the Republican Party chairman of the Williamson County GOP. And then shortly after that, I was recruited to run for an executive committee position. It just so happened that the first vice chair of the Republican Party was moving out of the county. That opened up a spot. I placed my name in the hat and won the election in 2021, I think, when the party reorganized.
Well, I've brought up Cheryl Brown quite a few times. There's been several videos on that. I've delved into Williamson County, and I think that as we summarize what just happened this last election season, I think we're gonna, in the last couple of days, I think that your insights and some of your personal experiences that we talked about just a few days ago might help people understand that we're not fighting a whole bunch of different battles. We're all fighting pretty much the same battle. So Daniel, if you could, because I know this, you're really excited to talk about incentives, and while we're still on Facebook and YouTube, I think it's a good idea to talk about something a little bit more novel, less and less necessarily controversial. So let's
Yeah, we
bring
keep
up
in
the
mind.
DUI arrests.
Mhm.
It is how many DUIs do you think, Sean, or how drunk do you have to be to get a DUI?
That's great. I think the legal limit is 0.08, isn't it?
What if I told you you didn't have to be drunk at all? In fact, you could be stone cold sober.
I would be surprised.
Well, that I think most of us would feel the same way, but we have this news article from WSMV News Channel 4. Sober drivers arrested for DUI often have one thing in common: medical problems.
Hmm.
Now, that headline doesn't let you know how big of an issue it is. This centers around a 75-year-old man who was arrested for after leaving the bar. And the joke at the bar is that he does not drink. He might drink sweet tea or coffee, but he doesn't drink alcohol. He tells the officer that, found himself at 75 years old arrested, spent 5 months waiting on the results of his blood test to come back, only to find out that he was exactly right. He was sober and had to hire an attorney. He has the attorney that they spoke to in this story said that they have represented between 10 and 15 people who were stone cold sober. And there's a part in here, I think a little bit higher up, Daniel, about Mothers Against Drunk Driving has awarded this officer in 2023 the top enforcer in Rutherford County. And I think they have 5 or 6 people that have been charged with DUI who were sober. Some people were bow-legged, and I wanted to talk about how we've incentivized it. Sorry if you're getting a little bit of feedback. Where I had to break down my stereo equipment, everything this week to go do an interview. Ended up not using it, but having to hook it back up. We might have a loose wire somewhere, so just bear with us on any feedback.
Yeah, let us know in the comment section if you guys are hearing any weird feedback. I don't hear it. Chase hears it, so we're not really sure which end it's on. So if you guys are hearing it, just let us know so we can know where to focus our attention.
Yep. So does that surprise you that just in Rutherford County alone, that one attorney has represented 10 to 15 people who have been sober on trial for DUI? How have we gotten here?
Man, I do notice I've seen an uptick in videos, like short form videos, say on TikTok and Reels and whatnot, that are basically explaining to people, like, if when you get in these situations, basically you're not required by law. And I did look it up for Tennessee. You're not required by law to submit to a breathalyzer. You're not required by law to submit to a what do they call that? The where you walk the line and try, the
field sobriety test.
Yeah, the field sobriety test. You're not required to, unless exigent circumstances or whatever. There's specific instances where that's they are allowed to do it, but for the most part, if you're just getting pulled over as part of a routine stop, they don't have any rights to do that. Problem is, a lot of people aren't educated and they don't know. So when they go to take these things,
real quick, to clarify that, you do have to submit to a blood test. Failure to provide a sample is a crime in Tennessee. And
I was reading you don't have to. Yeah, I've read that you don't have to submit to any of that stuff.
No, you do. You have to submit to a blood test if they have some form of reason, which reasonable articulable suspicion is going to be his eyes were glazed, his speech was slurred, and the odor of alcohol was on his, or of beer, or of an intoxicant was on his breath.
We'll have to look that up for sure to clarify that. But for the most part, most instances don't require you to. But my point was
breathalyzer and field sobriety, correct. Blood test, yes. You have to provide some form of a sample, or you will lose your license for a year.
Right. So to get to what I was saying is a lot of these people don't understand that. They don't realize that. So they will submit to them, and then, say they are on some kind of a medication that they are prescribed, that they're supposed to be taking, that's perfectly legal. and they can't balance for shit, and they end up failing those tests as a result. There's a number of people, I'm sure, that get caught up in those scenarios where they kind of incriminate themselves accidentally, not entirely not meaning to, entirely sober, and yet, here they are in the situation. But for the most part, the best thing you can do is just shut the hell up.
Well, I see that Sean went for probable cause. Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Sean.
No, you're talking about incentives. And I've said that all the time. Whenever there's anything corrupt, look at where the incentives are and then work backwards from that. So I don't know, but probable cause can mean anything. I mean, if the officer has probable to assume you are intoxicated or under the influence of something that is debilitating or impeding your ability to control your vehicle, they can ask you to submit. Your denial to submit, as I understand it, is essentially confirming their suspicions, and they can take you into custody.
Yeah, so I don't know. I've seen what Daniel's talking about, where you aren't you do not have to walk a line. You can just say, no, I'll just submit to a blood sample, because that's the overall, people can be clumsy and not drunk. People can possibly, I don't know if it also requires a breathalyzer, but they do have to have some form of probable cause, reasonable, articulable suspicion. But it's going to be your word versus theirs on whether or not your speech was slurred or your eyes were glossy.
Okay, I brought this up real quick. Just a quick search under TCA 55-10-46. Any person driving a motor vehicle in Tennessee is deemed to have given implied consent to a breath test, blood test, or both to determine if the person's alcohol or drug content of their blood. A refusal to submit is one of these tests is a civil rather than a criminal offense. And a little bit up here says that if the officer has a warrant, the driver must comply with the request. If the officer does not have a warrant, the driver has the right to refuse. It's not to say it doesn't come with consequences, but you are allowed to refuse them.
Yes, you're allowed to refuse them, and you're also, we got a little bit more feedback there. You have a right to refuse them, but if you do, they treat it the same way. But you don't have to stand out there and touch your nose or your hand to your nose. You don't have to walk a straight line. You can skip all of that hugabaloo and go straight to breathalyze me, blood test me, send me on my way. And I think that's what's happened in this case. They're talking about people who are bow-legged, people who are diabetic and haven't had their insulin, who are unsteady on their feet. I think the individual in this, it also turns out he's suffered vertigo for the last 10 years.
That was going to be my question, is how they got him. But being 75 years old, you can't expect he's going to walk the straightest.
Well, I know. I think that, standing on one foot. Have you seen half the people that are voting for Gloria Johnson?
Yeah. I'd like to see that line stand on one foot without being. Yeah, for sure.
They could cause themselves serious harm by standing on one foot. Your joints are not meant to have that much weight.
But I want to take this back to incentives again, because this is kind of the direction you took when you first started the story. And what I've seen in these instances is these guys have every incentive to try to prove that you have been drinking and get you pulled over, because they get, what do they say? Oh no, we don't do quotas, but anybody who's asked finds out, yeah, they kind of do keep a quota system of sorts. There's some kind of a way to determine how effective a police officer is in the field.
Well, he literally got an award from Moms Against Drunk Driving. For being the top enforcer. It's like, yeah, if you're locking up people that be sober, it's probably easy to become the top enforcer. Does it come with like a plaque, or does he get a bonus? Or
well, the problem is, like, the actual problem we're trying to solve isn't solved by this. The way they're doing it doesn't actually solve the problem. The incentive is what? To continue to make more money for the county, to raise your numbers on how much crime you're allegedly stopping. But the actual problem that most citizens are trying to stop is, hey, we just don't want drunk idiots hitting people, and killing them. But this doesn't solve that problem. It doesn't even pretend to take steps to address the core issue at the base of it.
Yep. Well, it's been really fun on YouTube and Facebook, but we're going to go ahead and get to the real election updates. Again, if you're watching on those platforms, jump on over to Rumble where you can interact, comments, and we're about to go through everything from the history to the updates on everything Tennessee election. So